All right, welcome everybody to the UCLA School of Nursing Fall 2022 admissions information session. So I'm pretty sure you guys are all here today because you guys are interested in our BS, so our Bachelor of Science in Nursing pre-licensure program. Okay, we call it pre-license because this program is tailored toward those that have an interest in nursing but want to come in without the RN license. Okay, so you're either going to be coming from high school and or you're going to be coming from a community college and thinking about transferring over, but you're not going to have your RN license yet. So with that, my name is Mark Coven. I'm the Director for Recruitment, Outreach, and Admission. And so from top to bottom, you should see Natalie Asensio, and then you'll also see Jamie Gama. So we like to consider ourselves the A team, and we are going to be the ones that are going to help you throughout the process of applying and answering any questions that you have, not only tonight, but as we continue moving forward. So again, the purpose of today is to make sure that we give you all the specific information related to our Bachelor of Science in Nursing program. And again, remember, it's going to be for those that are in high school that are applying their senior year. So there may be some high schoolers out there right now that are maybe juniors or even sophomores, and you're just starting early. That's okay, but you're not going to be able to apply until your senior year. We also accept transfers. We accept transfers mainly from the community college, but we always get those that apply from the university. So that's fine as well. So we admit from either way. So those are going to be our two options. Remember, for pre-license, that this is a full-time program. And what it does is it allows our graduates to sit for the NCLEX, which is the licensing exam. So you can be certified as a registered nurse, not only in the state of California, but any state that you choose. So again, if we have any out-of-state people joining us today, you can come on down to UCLA, spend your 4 years or your 2 or 3 years at UCLA, receive your degree. And if you want to go back to your home state and work as a nurse, you could do that as well. Okay, so for today's agenda, I'll continue forward and I'll continue with the introduction, the curriculum overview of the bachelor's program. And then at about 5:25, if we could stay on schedule, Natalie's going to go over the application process. And then about 5:45, we're going to go over financial aid. Our director of financial aid is Leonie Thomas, but unfortunately, she's not going to be able to join us today. But we'll make sure to get you all that information that you need in terms of knowing how much it's going to cost, about the financial aid, scholarships, and so forth. And then at about 6:10, we're going to have some great students that are going to be joining us. And we're going to be going ahead and starting that panel for nursing students. And then if we can end a little bit earlier, that'll be great. But what we want to do is answer any lasting questions that you guys have at the end of this information session. But again, feel free to put your questions in the Q&A, and we'll make sure to go ahead and answer those throughout the information session. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put in the chat one last thing, and this is going to be the link to our simulation lab. It's about 2 or 3 minutes long, and so I definitely want you guys to check it out when you get a chance. But what we do here at the UCLA School of Nursing is that we have real life mannequins in our simulation lab that pretty much replicates what it's going to be like in a hospital setting. So it's really cool. Our mannequins, they talk, they bleed, they give birth, they do everything in terms of what us, right, as humans do. And what it does is it really prepares our students before they get into, right, their clinical setting and their clinical atmosphere. So this is something that our students definitely take advantage of. It's going to be open. There are set times and schedules, of course, for our students to go in there, but we also have open times as well for students to continue practicing their skills. So again, when you get a chance, definitely feel free to check that out. I believe it's about 2 or 3 minutes long. Okay, so for our Bachelor of Science, as you guys know, it is designed for those that are in high school and or for those that are thinking about transferring and want to enter the nursing profession. Just so you guys know, it is a full-time program. Okay, so if you're thinking about entering as a freshman, remember it's going to be a 4-year program. And so the first couple of years, you will be doing your general courses, right? So pretty much what we like to call them is your GEs, your general education courses. And then your last 2 years will focus on the nursing specific classes. If you're thinking about transferring, as you know, we'll talk a little bit more in terms of what it takes to transfer over. It's going to be a full-time program, but when you enter, as of now, our transfers program takes about 3 years. Okay, so it's going to be 4 years for those that enter as freshmen and 3 years for those that enter as transfers. If you guys are familiar, or maybe not, UCLA classes are on the quarter system. Okay, so what does that mean? It's about 10 weeks a quarter. So we do move pretty fast, right? So a typical semester is about 16 weeks, but for the quarters, we're 10 weeks. So there's some pros and cons, right? When it comes to taking classes that are in the quarter system. If you like the class, um, it's over in 10 weeks, right? So that could be a good or a bad thing. But if there's a class that you don't like, you're not going to have to be in it for 4 months. It's going to be over in 10 weeks. So that's a cool part about that as well. So if you're thinking about how long it's going to take as you go through the program in order to graduate, it's going to take 14 quarters for those that enter as freshmen. And as of now, it's going to be 10 quarters for those that enter as transfers. Our faculty are in the discussion of offering a 2-year option for those that are thinking about coming in and transferring. Okay, so we're hoping to have that in the near future. So you'll have the opportunity of coming in and completing it in 2 years or coming in and completing it within 3 years. But I know you guys are looking at that last bullet. And that's what you guys are really here to see. And so we have a total of 50 students that will admit in terms of freshman admission. And then we have 10 transfers that we admit per year. Now, I know you guys are going to be thinking, all right, so how many people actually applied? So for those that are entered the fall of 2021, so they're about 3 weeks, I believe they're about 3 weeks in. So again, for freshman admission, we had close to about 5,500 applications. And for transfers, we had a little over 400. Okay, so those are just the numbers from last year. Who knows what it's going to be like for this year? But I know a lot of people just want to kind of get a ballpark in terms of how many people apply, in terms of how many people admit. Okay, so a lot of people also ask, why UCLA? So why UCLA, right? You would think. Well, one, not only are we ranked one of the best nursing programs, not only in the state of California, but in the country, we also feel there are different reasons for it. And so we are a small community within the big city. So I'm not sure if you guys have set foot on the UCLA campus, but as you know, it's a huge campus, right? And so we like to say is we are our own community within the big city limits of Los Angeles. So on campus, we offer, or what we do is we have a hospital, right? So we have the Ronald Reagan Medical Center, which is the #1 hospital on the West Coast. That's something that we've been proud of and something that's been #1 for several years now. So we have that. We have our own police department. So we have a safe campus. We have a tobacco-free campus, which is actually really cool. That's something that our previous dean who just retired implemented. We have what I always like to say is the world's biggest grocery store on there. So you can make sure that you can get everything you need in terms of your dorms. So, and speaking of dorms, what we do is here on UCLA, we offer up to 3 years for incoming students. Okay, so that's just to name a few things that we offer. And what we like to say makes us our own community within the big city limits. But the same thing could be said in terms of the School of Nursing. In the School of Nursing, we have about a little over 600 students, but that is for our undergraduates all the way up to our graduate programs. Okay, so if you're thinking about it, we offer our Bachelor of Science in Nursing, right, for incoming freshmen and transfers. And then we have 2 master's programs. We have a master's entry program, which is for those that actually have a bachelor's degree in another discipline, but want to come back to receive or earn their nursing degree. And then we also have another MSN, which is our advanced practice RN. So it is for those that actually receive their BSN and want to come back and further the nursing education, become either an NP, right, which is a nurse practitioner, or a CNS, which is a clinical nurse specialist. And then we have 2 doctorate programs. So we have our PhD, which is our Doctor of Philosophy. And then we have a newly, let's say pretty new, I believe we graduated 2 or 3 programs so far as of now, but it's going to be our DNP, which is a Doctor of Nursing Practice. So if you're thinking about it, we have a little bit over 600 students. So we feel we're our own small community within the big realm of UCLA. But with that, why do we think that we are a small community? Because of the different resources that we have, okay, in the School of Nursing. One, like I mentioned earlier, we have our own Director of Financial Aid, who is Leonie Thomas. That is something that other programs on campus do not have. So that is a good resource in terms of what we have. We have a mentorship program. So what we like to do is we like to match up a first-year student with a second-year student. And so as you progress and move along throughout the program, you're going to be each other's, right-hand human, in a sense. I don't want to say man, but it's going to be your right-hand human in a sense. And so they can give you the ins and outs of the program. They can share, pass down scrubs if that's the case. They can share books, pass down books, give you some insight in terms of the different classes, how to study, and so forth. We also have a specialty coach program where students who have graduated through the program come back to help our students out. We have faculty advisor, of course. You're going to also have your own student service coordinator who's going to help progress you throughout the program. We have tutoring. That's that's an option. We have other student organizations. So there's other things that I'll be mentioning throughout the information session, but we think there's tons of resources that we feel are going to help our students be successful as they continue throughout the program. Okay, so if we're thinking about some of the goals for the program, we definitely want to make sure that we are going to educate and provide a new workforce of RNs, right? So what does that mean? We want to make sure that our students are going to be able to be prepared to deal with either a high tech or high acuity setting. And we just want to make sure that no matter what different type of healthcare setting that you guys are going to be going into once you graduate, that you're going to be able to, succeed and flourish as a registered nurse. Here are just some of the partnerships that we have in terms of our hospitals, and not limited to, but here are just some. So pretty much what we like to do is we'll send our students all the way down to 405 South, if you guys are familiar with Los Angeles, California, which is going to be down to Torrance Memorial. And we'll go all the way up to Northridge, which is up to 405 North, which is Dignity Health, and anywhere in between. So of course, we're going to make sure that we're going to send you guys to the UCLA Health System, which is Ronald Reagan, which is on our campus, as well as UCLA Santa Monica. But as you see, we also send our students at Cedars Sinai. We're definitely going to have our students do a VA rotation. There's going to be St. John's, there's CHLA for those that are interested in peds, Good Samaritan, and then there's also Kaiser, which is actually not here, but we also sent our students, I should say, to Kaiser as well. So there's a really good sense of the different opportunities that you'll be able to do and get as you are going through the program, right? A lot of people may have an idea of a certain hospital and maybe even a certain floor, but the good thing about this is that we're going to make sure that you're going to be able to go to these different hospitals. So that way, if it's peds, of course, you're going to want to do something that might be at CHLA. But if you're thinking maybe something that's psychiatric, or if you want to work with veterans, we're going to make sure that we're going to help provide you with all those different opportunities. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the connection to nursing. Okay, so let's start on the right side in terms of our personal connection. So again, for those that are entering as freshmen and or transfers, you're going to be starting off by taking 2 courses. Well, there's going to be more courses, of course, but the first 2 are going to be N10, which is offered in the first quarter, and then N20, which is Nursing 10 and Nursing 20. And they are nursing focused, of course. That's a nursing course, but it has an emphasis on social justice. And I think, as you guys know, all the things that have been going on the last year and a half, we've been ahead of this curve, and we wanted to make sure that we can implement this sort of thing to making sure that our students are, going to be able to think critically, and not only that, but also help out their own community and the communities that they live in. Okay, so like I mentioned earlier, you guys have your own student service coordinator who meets with you guys quarterly to make sure that you guys are progressing. We also have it to make sure that you guys can meet with them at any time. We also have something on here that's called a safe zone, which is part of the DEI, which is our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Council. And so a safe zone is also something where we implement to where if students have any type of issues, they can come and speak to 2 people that are designated for the safe zone. It could be it could be class related, it could be personal related, or it could just be like, you know what? I just wanted to come in and talk to you and let you know I got an A on this exam, right? And I'm feeling really great. Or I just tried out for this intramural school or this intramural team and I made the team. So it's not, the safe zone is not just for progression issues or if there's anything wrong in terms of, going on right now as you go through the program, but just so you can have a voice or you can have someone like a listening ear. Okay, so we have that. But in terms of the student life, here are just some of the nursing student associations and organizations that we have that are official on the UCLA campus. So we have Alpha Tau Delta, we have Global Action in Nursing. And let me talk a little bit about GAIN. So for GAIN, because you guys may have some questions about can our nursing students study abroad. So unfortunately, our students are not able to study abroad just because of different, stipulations, policies, and so forth that are going on in these different countries. We just can't have our students do, any type of rotation in another hospital in another country. But with that, we have this association to where we have a group of students who will spend, about a week or a little bit over a week in different parts of the world. We have faculty that join them, And so we send our students to places in Africa. I know they've gone to places in Uganda before, and either South or Central America. So I know they've gone to Cuba as well. And so what you're doing is you're going to be using the skill sets that you're going to be learning throughout the program to help implement it in these places of need. And so I think that's a really cool thing of what GAIN has to offer. As you are going down the list, we have PANZA, which is our Pan-African. We have LANZA, which is for our Latinx community. We have the PICU, we have a PINZA, which should be on here, which is for our Asian community. We have men in nursing, and then we also have broad spectrum, which is for our LGBTQ community as well. And so these are all student-run organizations. And so you'll see on the right side, which are some of the logos that we have offered for you guys as well. So we definitely want to make sure that you guys can be a part of these organizations. These are just student ones. Of course, there's going to be so many different other ones that you could be able to join while you're on campus, sororities, fraternities, and so forth, intramurals. Just being well connected to the university is what we really want our students to be and to do. So let's go over the curriculum a little bit. And so, when you guys are thinking about your clinical experience, remember, like I was saying earlier, your first couple of years, if you're coming in as a freshman, and or your first year, if you come in as a transfer, are going to be mostly nursing kind of lecture courses and or your GEs. But it's not going to be until your third year if you're coming in as a freshman, right? So we like to say third year, but it's typically like a junior, and or your second year for transfers. Okay, so that's when it's going to be you're going to start your clinical experience. Okay, so you will start your fall quarter, and so from fall, winter, and spring, you're going to do fundamentals in Med-Surg A, Med-Surg B, and Med-Surg C. As you see, during the summer is when you're actually going to start your maternity and peds. And this is going to be the only time where you're going to have to come for summer, right? So you're not going to have to do it for your first couple of years, but you will have to do it between your third and fourth year. Okay, so we'll have to make sure that you do a peds and maternity rotation. And then you're going to start last year, which is year 4 and or year 3 for you guys. In fall quarter, you're going to do mental health. And then you're going to transition and do for winter quarter, critical care and public health. So for public health, we like to send our students down to Skid Row. If you guys are familiar with the Los Angeles area and other parts within the LA County. And then for spring, we have something that's called immersion. And so immersion is where you're no longer going to have any classroom work, but at this point, hopefully you'll have a hospital of interest and or 4 of your interests. And then what we have is we have our own clinical placement team that does a great job of making sure that we can, put you in a hospital and 4 of your liking. But at that time, you're going to be choosing, or you're going to have a preceptor who you're going to be working with as if you're going to be doing like your 12-hour shifts, as if you're really going to be working, right? So it's just a good preparatory type of immersion of what it's going to look like once you graduate. But with immersion, what you're going to also have to do is a project. So there's going to be a project involved. And so you'll want to choose something that you would want to implement to make that floor better. Okay, so at the end, you will end up presenting it. And 9 times out of 10, I believe, that floor ends up implementing the cool thing that you came up with. Okay, so at the end, you'll graduate in June. And then from there, typically our students graduate on a Saturday. You'll be able to celebrate, hooray, yes. But then that following Monday, what we do is we want you to come back because we have, one of our coolest professors, her name is Barbara Dunham. She's going to help prepare you guys. I think it's about a week long, I believe, to kind of help prepare you guys as you're going to be studying for the NCLEX. Okay, so it's kind of like a boot camp in a sense. But what we know is a lot of students who end up, taking advantage of this, they do really well in the NCLEX. Speaking of the NCLEX, last year, so let's go back because we're still waiting to hear back for those that just graduated for fall 2021. So let's go back. So we always go back a year, right? So let's say fall 2019, I'm saying the graduates of 2019, we had 100% first-time pass rate for those that took the NCLEX, okay? And now let's move forward for 2020, we had a 95% first-time pass rate. So we're always in the 90 percentile, but our goal is always to have 100% first-time pass rate. And so we're still waiting to hear back for our students to end up taking it in the months of August and September. But we're pretty sure that we're gonna be pretty high in that percentage. Okay, so this is what it's going to look like. So again, if you guys were able to download that informational packet, you should have something that looks like this, what's going to give you a breakdown of the sample course sequence. Okay, and so you'll have an idea of what it's going to look like as you move forward throughout your 4 years if you're thinking about coming in as a freshman. So as you see, you will be full-time. And so you'll see the classes on the left, but on the right are the definition of the classes. Okay, so definitely take a look at that. And then if we move forward here, you'll see what it's going to look like for those that are entering as transfers. Okay, so I'll speak, I think it might be on the next slide, in terms of what it's going to look like when you transfer in, or the requirements it takes for you to transfer in. Okay, but this is what you'll see here. So let me move forward because that's where it's at here. Okay, so again, these are for transfer applicants. So again, if you are thinking about and or want to apply for freshman admission, there are no prerequisites to entering our program. There's no prerequisites to entering the freshman program, okay? But there are for transfers. So if you are at your local community college, or maybe you're even at another university, in order to be eligible to transfer into our BS in nursing program, you will have to complete IGETI, which is the same thing as your general education courses. Okay, so when you're thinking about your GEs, it's going to be your basic English, right? Your English composition, your critical thinking. We're going to ask that you complete like a math course. And then there's a section for arts and humanities. There's social and behavioral courses and so forth. Okay, so it's going to be about 60 units worth that you'll have to complete in terms of your GEs. But we also are going to implement prerequisite courses that we're going to want you to complete as well. And so what you'll see is for chemistry, we're going to ask for about 3 semesters worth, and it's going to include general, inorganic, and organic chemistry. We're going to ask for human anatomy, human physiology. And then we have something that's called life science. Okay, so if life science is like biology courses, but for us, these are what they're called. They're called cell and molecular biology, and physiology and human biology. Okay. There's also 4 prerequisites that also have an asterisk, right? So you'll see calculus, you'll see communication, which is like public speaking. You'll see psychology, so introduction to psychology, and microbiology. All right, so those are 4 prerequisites that you'll have the opportunity of either taking before you transfer and or, let me go back. If you decide not to take them, then what we'll do is we'll implement them within your first year as you transfer. Right. So if you think about it, remember I was saying in 10, social justice, in 50 is epidemiology. But if you decided not to take calculus or psychology, we'll make sure that you take it within your first year. As you move forward to winter quarter, in 20 is that second part for social justice. And then MIMG 10 is the microbiology. And then there's communications. Okay. So if you think about it, if you end up taking those 4 prerequisites, these classes end up being an elective. So you'll see there's a chance with all these electives that you'll have the opportunity of coming in and minoring. Okay, so that's the cool thing about those that want to come in as transfers. They have the opportunity of minoring. For both freshmen and or transfer students, they do not have the opportunity of double majoring. Okay, so as you see, there's too many classes that you'll be required to take. And so there's just no way you'll be able to fit in another major. And if you come in as a freshman, as you see, there are no electives. These are all the courses you have to take. So unfortunately, you will not even be able to minor. So the only opportunity to minor would be for those that enter as transfers. Okay, so definitely think about that there. Okay, so again, for those that are interested in transferring, you're going to have to complete your GEs along with our nursing prerequisites. If you guys are at a community college here in California, what I would do is I recommend going on to assist.org. Okay, so www.assist.org. What it is, it's like an online counseling forum for those that are attending any community college here in California. Okay, so what you'll do is you'll be able to put in your local community college. And then what it does is it has a list of every CSU and every UC here in California. You could put in UCLA, and then what it'll do is it'll populate from your school the equivalent to satisfy these prerequisites. Okay, so that's the good thing. You're not going to have to guess what chemistry course am I going to have to take. You put in your school that you're currently attending, you put in UCLA, and it will tell you chemistry 101 or 102 or whatever the case is. It'll tell you exactly what it is. All right. Let's talk a little bit about time commitment. So in order to be successful at UCLA, what they are saying or what they're suggesting is that for each unit taken, they think you should dedicate at least 3 hours of work, right? So at least 3 hours should be expected, either inside or outside of the classroom. So for instance, let's say if you have a 14-unit quarter, what they're saying is you should be able to devote 42 hours of studies, either in class or out of class. And that's what they think is going to be a successful student. You guys all know each other, so you guys know when I say each other, you should know yourself, I should say. So you should know your study habits. But at the same time, this is totally different. Higher education is different. And so you may have to put in a lot more hours to be successful. But what UCLA is saying is if you at least, dedicate at least 3 hours, you should be fine. Okay, so before I continue, because I am a little bit behind, let's go ahead and see if I can answer some questions here before Natalie takes over. Okay, let's see. Okay, so someone has a good question. Someone is saying, as a male applying to the nursing program, can you talk a little bit about what the men in nursing student life is like? Yeah, so being a male in the nursing program, as you know, it's female predominant, but there's no disadvantage of being a male in the nursing program. I think the cool thing is that some years ago, the men that were in our program wanted to start this organization. So I think that's a really cool thing. There's some things that they do on campus. We actually just had a student who just graduated who received an award for all the stuff that he's done I should say, to showcase, the great things that men are doing in the field of nursing. So just like any other student organization, you're there, you can promote, you could try to make differences within the community, within the campus and so forth. So again, we don't have like a set number of males that we need to admit, whatever the case is. But what we want to do is make sure that no matter what the student looks like, that they're going to have an opportunity to succeed. So that's a good question. So yeah, someone's also asking, is there a way to find the equivalent from different universities to the prerequisites? So unfortunately, there is no online form like Assist that goes from university to university. So that will be a little bit tougher. But what you could do is you could email myself. And what we did is we tried to come up with like an articulation sheet. So depending on what university you're at, you can go ahead and email me. You can email me unofficial transcripts and I'll take some time looking that over to try to provide you with the courses that are equivalent. So go ahead and do that. Okay. So, here's another good question. Someone is asking, what is the minimum AP score to receive credit? And so Jamie's looked like she's going to be typing it in, but it depends on what class you're thinking about taking, or it depends on the class in terms of what AP class you're taking and or the exam that you're thinking about taking. And then so we have a full list. So let's say for psychology, right? If you are in high school, right, and you're taking AP psychology, in order for UCLA to accept it to be transferable, to actually satisfy what they call psychology 10, you would have to receive a score of a 4 or a 5. Okay. So I know, like, for instance, CSUs accept the 3, but unfortunately UCLA, we require the 4. Okay, so that's a good question. So again, it depends if you're taking like AP history or AP chemistry, whatever the case is, it just depends on what class you're taking. But we have a full list and we can tell you what you would need in order for that to transfer over. Okay, so we'll do 2 more questions and then we'll move forward. For transfers, is there a time frame for these classes that should be taken? So example, someone is saying if they took anatomy or physiology 10 years ago, that's totally fine. We do not have a recency requirement for those that want to transfer into our program. So it doesn't matter if you took the course 10 years ago, as long as you completed it with an acceptable grade, so meaning a C or better, we can accept it. Let's see here. I'll do one more, but I promise we'll continue to answer these questions as we move forward. Do you have an LVN to BSN option? Good question. We do not. We do not have an LVN to BSN option. Those that are LVNs, you will still be considered eligible to transfer into the program. The good thing with you being an LVN is that you already have some healthcare experience. You have experience working as a nurse. So that definitely helps. But unfortunately, we don't have a specific program from LVN to BSN. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move forward, and I'm going to have Natalie take over, and we're going to continue to answer some of these questions in the chat while she continues. But without further ado, I want to introduce Natalie Asensio, and she's going to talk about the application process.
Hello, everyone, and good evening. Glad to have you here today. I'll be going over the application process. And on this slide here, you can see the undergraduate admissions link and the School of Nursing link. And I will add these in the chat. Mark, can you go to the next slide?
Yeah, and you're going in and out a little bit, Natalie.
Okay. Okay. Can you hear me? Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
Okay. So
So we'll go.
were you able to hear me about the links here on the slide?
Yep. So
Okay.
we'll go ahead and put the links in the slide, but let's go ahead and continue.
Okay, so the supplemental application, we will need your name, address, email, phone, date of birth, and high school you attended. Your resume should contain your work and volunteer experience, the statement of purpose, and the recommendation forms. The UC application is due November 30th, 2021, and the deadline for the supplemental application is January 15th, 2022. And here are the clear statement of your goals for the statement of purpose that we will need. Here are a few things that reviewers look for. We want to know why you want to be a nurse. So we don't have interviews, so think of your statement of purpose as your interview. Why you want to be a nurse, some of your goals that you have for the university, your goals for a nursing career, those do tend to change. So, and we're aware of that. Any multicultural experiences or diversity experience that you'd like to share with us would also be needed to be included in there. Any bilingual ability you'd like to, let us know how you use the second language or a third language. And examples of responding to challenges or adversity. So if you're a first generation in your family to attend college, if you've overcome any specific hardships, things like that, any accomplishments, I'm sorry, that you'd like to also share in your resume, any leadership activities and qualities, and it will need to be 2 to 3 pages double spaced. Letters of recommendation. So we will need 2 references for the SON form, and this may be a teacher, counselor, and or supervisor. And this cannot be a family or a personal friend. It can be a professional person, it can be a nurse you've shadowed, it can be a professor or a mentoring relationship that you've had with someone.
And with that, I'm not sure if Natalie mentioned or not, but what we have is an extended deadline of January 25th, right? So we're going to make sure that you're going to submit the application by January 15th. But what we want to do is give your recommenders an additional 10 days to submit. Okay, so when you are submitting the supplemental application, that's when your recommenders are actually going to be receiving that recommendation link. Okay, so if you start the application, let's say next month or in December, but you're going to wait until January at some point to submit, your recommenders are not going to receive it even if you start the application in December. They're going to get it as soon as you actually submit the application. So that's why we like to give them an extra 10 days.
Okay, so your resume will show us your highlights of work experience, any volunteer work and or extracurricular activities. We would like to see you date these activities with a brief description, limit to 2 pages in chronological order, beginning with the most recent. Okay, and for transfer applicants, this is the email you will send your electronic transcripts to. And if you're mailing them, this is the mailing address where we will receive them. Okay, and this is the 18th email. So feel free to reach out to Mark, Jamie, or myself if you have any questions, or, if you later on think, oh, I forgot to ask a question or it wasn't answered, feel free to send us an email and we'll get back to you shortly.
Awesome. Thank you, Natalie. And so What we always have here is kind of like a little disclaimer, of course, because what we try to do is give you guys, great insight in terms of what the application process is like, the different type of things we're looking in terms of a nursing student. But unfortunately, we're not able to admit every student, right? So that's pretty much what this disclaimer is saying, is that if we could, we would love to admit all 5,000 of you, or even just, the 50 or close to 60 people that are joining us today. But I think another good thing about that, though, is that people that have taken the time to spend, the next, hour or so with us, you're getting great insight in terms of knowing what it takes to apply, what we're looking for in an applicant compared to those that may be applying and not know. So again, just coming to today's session is going to be giving you definitely an upper hand, so you're getting an idea of what it looks like and what it takes to be a nursing student. So thank you for that. And so before we move forward with the financial aid section, I see in the Q&A, you guys have been asking some really good questions here. And so we want to make sure that we can answer some of them for you. I know Jamie answered one, which I wanted to make sure that we can say out loud, because someone was asking, can you submit more than 2 letters of recommendations? So unfortunately, you cannot. There's only going to be 2 options on the supplemental application for you to enter 2 recommenders. So it's not going to give you an opportunity to add any more. So just so you know, you're only going to be able to have 2 letters of recommendations. So I just wanted to mention that. Someone is also asking, can they ask their high school teacher for a letter of recommendation, even if you're applying as a transfer? Yes, you can. So that'll be totally fine. So that's a good question. And so kind of speaking or going a little bit more in depth in terms of like the letters of recommendations, what we want you guys to do is, of course, we want the recommendations to be, or the recommenders to be somewhat relevant. But we also want you to choose 2 people that know you, of course, but know that nursing is your future career choice, or is your future, I'm sorry, is your current career choice. But they also see you working as a nurse in the future. Okay, so from that, you want them to know, obviously, you and your traits and your skills, but how that can translate into being a successful nursing student and a successful nurse. Okay, so start thinking about, hey, does my teacher, or does my counselor, or does my supervisor, how well do they know me? How well do they know that nursing is what I want? Because that's what you're really going to want them to be able to talk about. Okay. The only thing that we're going to ask for is just no family or friends, like Natalie was saying. We will know if the person is a family member or a personal friend, and what we'll have to do is just get back to you and let you know that unfortunately you wouldn't be able to use them. Okay, so just keep that in mind. And so with that, someone's also asking, can like a doctor or a PA write a letter of recommendation? They can. So it doesn't necessarily just have to be a nurse. It can be someone who is in another healthcare profession. So that's totally fine. Someone's asking, do the transcripts need to be official or can they be unofficial? So again, if you are applying for freshman admission, you will, and or transfer, I should say, you will be required to submit transcripts as part of the UC application, okay? But transfers, I'm sorry, but freshmen do not have to submit transcripts to the supplemental application. We will ask transfers to submit their unofficial transcripts as part of the supplemental application, okay? So freshmen do not for the supplemental, but transfers do, but they can be unofficial. They will be official once you are admitted into the program. So that's when we're gonna ask for an official transcript. Okay, so let's see here. Someone's asking, is the cumulative GPA, where is it? The cumulative GPA for specific prerequisites in the program, or is it for GE courses? So that's a good question. The cumulative GPA is going to come from all transferable courses. Okay, so that's going to include your GEs as well as your prerequisites. So when I say transferable, that's because there could be some courses that you're taking at your university and or your community college that are not UC transferable, meaning we will only be able to accept the ones that UCLA, I should say, are going to be able to accept to transfer in to go towards your diploma or your degree. Okay, so that's a good question. And then we have another good one here. With COVID, high schoolers are having a hard time getting volunteer opportunities, especially for those that are under 18. Yes. So is that taken into consideration? That definitely is. So that, thank you for bringing that up. And so yes, our admissions committee, as well as our reviewers, are aware of that. And so they do know that students are not having the opportunity, like years prior, to get healthcare experience. So that could be in the form of volunteering, maybe at a local hospital or high school. I'm sorry, a local hospital or clinic. So we are aware of that. And so if the student was unable to get any type of volunteer experience, what we would want you to do is talk about if you had the opportunity and or maybe you were applying right to a certain internship or a volunteer program, what would you have gotten out of it? What were the opportunities that that volunteer opportunity were going to be able to provide for you? So that's something we would want you to talk about. But then also think about if you want to volunteer, that it doesn't just have to be at a high school. I'm sorry, I keep saying high school, at a hospital. But your volunteering can be at a local clinic. It can be at a nursing home. You can do things in your, in your community. So there's other things you can do at a family clinic. So just try to reach out and try to see if there's other opportunities in the places that you live. We have those that get some type of nursing certification, right? So someone that may be an LVN or someone that has gotten their CNA, or maybe someone that's an EMT. Again, I know it might be a little bit harder for someone who's under 18, but just try to do some things that, can help you immerse yourself and be around, the healthcare profession, and that being nurses or physicians or doctors. Even if you shadow, that would be great too. Let's see. Let's see here. What else do we have? Yeah. So yeah, even nursing homes may not be able to, let people under 18. And so that's, we definitely know that. But when you're thinking maybe about healthcare, maybe, and again, it's hard because of the pandemic, but was there a student organization, right, in the high school that was healthcare related, that the student was able to get involved in? And it could be small things that would look good. That's just really what we want to see, is have the student or the applicant articulate why they want to be a nurse, and from any type of experience. It can be personal, it can be family situated oriented, or something that they've actually been able to volunteer and do. So the biggest thing is just from your own personal experience, if it's something that you just saw or something that happened personally to you, how you think that's affected you and prepared you to want to apply to our nursing program. Let's see. Let's see. What else do we have here? Okay. Okay, so I want to answer some questions. Some of these are personal questions, so I just want to make sure if there's any out there for the rest of the group that we can answer that. Okay, so someone's asking a good question here. If I don't get accepted into the BSN program as a freshman, and I've put an alternate major, will my alternate major, I should say, be looked at to be accepted into UCLA? If not, why do they offer an alternate major on the application? You should have your alternate major looked at. But again, that doesn't come from the School of Nursing. So I can tell you, if you apply to UCLA and you choose nursing as like your alternate major, we're not looking at alternate majors. So again, for those that are interested in nursing, you are going to have to select nursing as your first choice. So we're only going to look at those that select nursing as their first choice. Now, again, if someone is not admitted into the nursing program, it will be up to the university to decide if there's any room for that alternate major, right? So the thing about it is, the alternate major that you choose, they may have already finished and or completed their admissions. So it just depends. It's a good question.
Omar, can I answer the question about the application?
Yeah, of course.
For the School of Nursing. So somebody's asking if the application for the School of Nursing is different from UCLA in general, meaning would you just fill out the School of Nursing application? So the answer is you must fill out both applications. So it's a 2 application process. You have to fill out the UC application first, and after you submit the UC application, you will get an application ID. So with that number, you would have to wait a few days, and then you will get access to our supplemental application. Okay, so you would have to fill both. And the School of Nursing will actually decide who gets admitted. And the reviewers at the School of Nursing do not read your UC application. I don't know if it makes sense, but the School of Nursing only reads the supplemental application, and they don't see what you type in the common app in the UC application.
Thank you for that, Jamie. Okay, so with no questions, we'll go ahead and continue. So let's talk a little bit about financial aid. So let's talk about how am I going to pay for all of this, right? You as a student and or you for the parents, or if there's any parents out there, you're going to have to figure out how am I going to apply or how am I going to pay for all this? So the first thing I want to mention is that we have our own director of financial aid. Her name is Leonie Thomas. So please feel free to take her, and let me write the correct email address because I'm missing the S on there. So I'm putting it in here now. Okay, so that's going to be the email address. So there's going to be an S at the end. So it should be leoniethomas@sonnet.ucla.edu. So again, if you guys have any questions that aren't answered here, please feel free to send her an email and she'll be happy to help for you. Okay, so with that, if you're thinking about in-state, right? So again, for those that are here in California, in-state fees are going to be about $13,285 per year. Okay, so if you are going to have to break that down, because UCLA, what we do is we divide that into the quarters, right? Remember, there's 3 quarters in the academic year. There's fall, winter, and spring. So it's going to be about a little over $4,400 per quarter. Okay, so one thing is it does not go by the credits, right? So it's not per unit. It actually goes for the total amount for the year. Okay, so as long as you're a full-time student, doesn't matter if you're taking 12, 14, or 16 units a quarter, the tuition is going to be the same. Okay, so if you are an out-of-state student, then you're going to be thinking about paying about $42,277 per year. So there are going to be added out-of-state fees required for those that are not here in California. Okay, so now if you're thinking about the total projected budget, right, for campus, it's going to be about $34,452. Okay, so what includes in that is going to be your average cost for housing, right? So room and board is what we like to call it. And so it's going to be in that 34,000, it's going to be that 15,816. So again, remember that UCLA guarantees at least 3 years of housing for our students. And so if you guys had the opportunity of downloading that informational packet in there, there's going to be a section where it talks about financial aid and it gives a breakdown of what the total projected budget is. So it'll give you a breakdown of what transportation fees, healthcare, insurance, if you guys don't have it. If you do, that can be waived. But then if you're thinking books and supplies, and there's other things that will total the projected budget. Okay, so definitely take a look at that if you haven't. Okay, so another thing is going to be some deadlines, right? So these deadlines are going to be critical in terms of receiving financial aid. So I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with this, if you have any of your siblings, and or if you're at the community college and you're familiar with this, but we definitely want you guys to apply for FAFSA. Okay, so the deadline is going to be March 2nd. It's March 2nd of every year. Okay, so for those that are going to be interested in applying for fall 2022, you're going to want to submit your FAFSA deadline by March 2nd. Okay, so this is priority deadline. You can still submit the application if it's after, but again, you want to make sure it's first. Okay, so that's the first thing. What you'll do is you'll be able to establish a username and password. And then from there, you'll be able to go in there and select all the different universities that you would want to have your financial aid assisted to. Okay. So again, it's the free application. All right. So you want you guys to all know that it's going to be free application. What it is, it's based off your parents' income and or your own income if you're working and you don't have any guardianship. With that, you want to make sure that you are choosing, the right code, which is 001315. Okay, so as you go in there and or you should be able to look it up. There's a section where you'll be able to type in, University of California and Los Angeles, which should be able to show up as well. With that, we also are offering the Cal Grant, right? And so there's a GPA verification form, and it's going to make sure that it's going to be for to California students of the Aid Commission. Okay, so not only are you going to be able to receive, free money in terms of FAFSA, but you'll also be able to receive Cal grants as well. So here are some UCLA scholarships, but not limited to. So there's going to be a bunch more, but there's a Regent Scholar, which is merit. So merit means, right, so there's merit and then there's need-based. So merit it intends for those that establish, good grades or high in terms of the admissions process. Okay, so merit means someone that deserves it in a sense that they've done well either in the application or they've done well as they're going through the program. Need is also there, so someone can receive need and or merit. So what we try to do is we try to provide it to those that are in dire need or someone that needs it more than the next. So with that, we have the alumni scholarships. Okay, so here's a website that all of our donors in terms of our alumni have done to provide, the up and coming people that are going to be entering the university. And then there's also through Dr. Ralph Bunch, who is also having his own freshman alumni scholarship. And so that's another one that's really great. And so those are just a few, but we also here in the School of Nursing we also have our own scholarships that we do provide for our students as well. But that begins the junior and senior year, right? So that's year 3 and 4. Okay, so you want to think about that. But what we try to do is, if we can, make sure that our students can enter the nursing program and enter the campus and university with, either having all the tuition paid for or doing our best to limit that as well, or limit, I should say, the loans. Let's see here. I'm going to look in the Q&A. If you guys have any questions about financial aid, I don't see any, but we will get back to these questions. And let's get back because we are a little bit early. We're about 10 minutes early until our student panelists. And so again, what I want to do is leave this up here. Okay, so sorry. Again, so this is going to be our director of financial aid. Her name is Leonie Thomas. And so again, you want to make sure that it's Leonie and then Thomas with the S on the end at sonnet.ucla.edu. Okay. And again, I want you guys to know as we move forward for the housing, right? So for housing and meals, that is also dedicated for those that enter as freshmen as well as transfers. Okay, so I want you guys to know transfers do have the opportunity of getting room and board as well. Someone is asking, is there tuition discount for UCLA employees? Yes, I believe there is. I do know they have it at the graduate level. I'm not entirely sure for the undergraduate level, just because most of our undergraduate students do not work. Most of them, if they do work there, they get the opportunity of doing work study. And so this would be a good question to ask Leonie if UCLA employees do have the opportunity of receiving a discount. I know for our graduate programs, and it could again be the same for the undergrads, you do have to work a certain percentage, right, in order to receive that tuition reduction. But remember that this is a full-time program and it is going to be very difficult for students to work and fulfill the obligation of studying and your clinical rotations and all of those things as well. So you have to make sure that you think about that. But there are work study positions that are available that are able to tailor around your school schedule. Okay, so that's a good thing about work study. Okay. Oh, someone is asking about a campus tour. So yes, as you know, the university does do a campus tour here in the School of Nursing. Unfortunately, we do not have tours that are available, but you could stop by the Factory Building, which is where we're located, and we would love to talk to you. But unfortunately, our building or the School of Nursing is so small that there's not a huge amount to show in terms of our tours. The skills lab, the reason why we want to show you that video is because the skills lab is closed for our students only. Yeah, tours aren't really a huge thing, but definitely stop on by if you have the chance, and we would love to see you and speak to you. Let's see here. Go ahead and answer some more questions. What do we have here?
Okay, I can answer the question about UC and nursing, about the applications again. Yes, so you need to apply to both UC and the School of Nursing separately. And the decisions usually for freshmen, actually, they go out sometime in March. And for transfers, they go out sometime in May. Correct, Mark?
Correct.
Yes.
Or April.
April.
April for transfers, I think.
April
Yeah.
for transfers, and then
Mhm.
March for freshmen. Yes. So you
Yeah.
would actually get notification from the undergraduate admissions office. So somebody asked earlier about the UC application. For high school applicants, yes, the application will be read. They will be read. So it's not just totally disregarded, right? It will be read by special readers. So the undergraduate admissions office have special readers, and they will assign you a score, a holistic score from 1 to 5. 1 is the best. And along with that, they will give the School of Nursing the names along with your holistic score. So yes, you can duplicate the information since the School of Nursing will not read the UC app, but yes, you want to make sure that you include, and you actually include everything on your UC application as well, like your resume or your activities, your extracurriculars. So you still have to include all of that.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Someone is asking about the GPA. So someone's asking what is the highest and the lowest GPA we accepted for freshmen, for those coming out of high school. I can tell you the average because I know someone also averaged what is the average GPA. The average GPA for those that entered the freshman program this past year was a 4.2. So obviously that was weighted. If it was unweighted, it was a 3.95, I believe. That's the average. And so when you say what's the highest and what's the lowest, we have no minimal requirement for someone that we can admit that has, in terms of like the lowest GPA and the highest GPA. So there's no minimum requirement in order to apply. And so that's why we don't look at what the highest and the lowest is. But what we do is after these students are admitted, then we go ahead and calculate what the average GPA is. So again, that's just the average. That's not what we're looking for. Okay, so we're not only going to admit students or look at students who are over 4.2. Okay, so keep that in mind. For transfers, the average GPA was a 3.77. Okay, so keep that in mind as well. The minimum that we're looking for transfers though, so we don't have a minimum score for freshmen, but we do have a minimum GPA for transfers, and that's a 3.5. Okay, so we are looking for at least a 3.5 for those that want to transfer into our program, and the average was a 3.77. Let's see here. Da, da, da. Okay, so if you guys have any questions, please feel free to put those in the chat. We're about 6 minutes out. I see one of our students are here, but she's early, so I don't want to hold her. She can hang on tight until we receive a little bit more sign-ins for the rest of our panelists. So let's go ahead and hang tight. If you guys have any more questions, yeah, please feel free to put them in the chat, or I'm sorry, in the Q&A. And so I see here, someone is asking, do you guys require the TEAS? So no, we do not require the TEAS exam. TEAS, if those are unfamiliar, TEAS is typically what is required for those that want to transfer into nursing programs, but we do not require the TEAS. As you guys should also know, be familiar with, that the UCLA and the UCs are no longer requiring the SAT or the ACT for those that want to enter as freshmen. Okay. So again, there's no entrance exams for those that want to enter or apply for freshman and or transfer admission. So that's a good question there. Great questions. Feel free to put some more in the Q&A while we wait a few more minutes. We're actually a little bit ahead of schedule, so which is good. But go ahead and ask any additional questions you have. So here's a good question. When would an intent to enroll need to be made? Okay, so that's a good question. So if you are applying for freshman admission, you will find out typically in the month of March if you're admitted. And I believe they give you until May 1st to make a decision. Okay, excuse me. So with that, you'll have, I believe there's like Bruin Day. The university puts together Bruin Day for incoming freshmen. So that happens probably in the month of April. So you have the opportunity to come into campus to see what it's like, but then also meeting with us here in the School of Nursing. But freshmen have until May 1st. Now transfers, they find out in the month of April, and the university gives them until June 1st to make a decision. Okay. So again, there is also a Bruin Day for transfers as well. So that's a good question. So you get about a month and a half, I would say, to submit your intent to enroll. So that is a great question. And in terms of the start date, we are admitting for every fall. And again, like I was saying earlier, we do have a quarter system. And for us, that starts in September. Okay, so it's always the third or even last week of September. Okay, so an academic term starts towards end of September, and then we'll finish up the academic year in June. Okay, so we're like a month behind for those that are in the semesters, right? Semesters, they typically start in August and end in May. We start in September and end in June. Okay, so someone's asking about wait lists, and so that's a really good question. We do have a wait list for those that are applying for freshmen, and we have a wait list for those that are applying for transfers, admission, I should say. Okay, so for those that are applying for freshman admission, we have a wait list of about, let's say, 20 to 25. And then for transfers, we have a wait list of about 10. Okay, so what we do is we will initially send out the admissions to those that were initially admitted into the program. And for anyone that declines our admissions, we'll go to the wait list. Okay, so that's how it works. So those that, again, have that May 1st deadline, that's typically when someone who's on the wait list will find out for freshman admission and or after June 1st, I believe, for transfer admissions. Don't hold me to that May 1st and June 1st. The university may change it, but typically it does happen in a short order. So definitely think about that. So thank you for that. That's a great question. Someone's also asking how many people come off the wait list. That differs from year to year. We do have students that come off the wait list for freshman admission. Rarely, though, do we get students that come off the wait list for transfers, right? Because we miss such a low amount. Typically, the 10 that are offered admissions, typically those 10 accept. For freshmen, we do go to the wait list. We don't go super deep into the wait list, though, but we do. And they are ranked, okay? So there is a rank order from 1 to 20 or 25 or 1 to 10, depending on the academic term or program, I should say. So they are ranked. That's a good question as well. Another good question, though, is there a point system? Yes, there is a point system. And so the application is a holistic review that consists of a point system and a ranking. Okay, so that's another good question. And I'm starting to see some people logging in. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up these next couple of questions, and then we'll go ahead and get started with our panelists. Let's see here. Okay. How likely is it to get off the wait list? Okay, so yeah, you guys are going back to the wait list question. That's hard to answer, right? Because from year to year, it differs. I can't speak on what it's going to be like for those that are applying, for fall 2022. I can say, though, again, that we do go to the wait list every year. We just don't know how far deep we get into the wait list for freshman admission. Again, for transfers, we may get to the wait list, but it's rare. So we typically have our initial 10 transfers come in. I do see some transfers, and so they can speak to you on that. But let's go ahead and get started, because I think everyone might be here, and it's right on time. Look how punctual they are, like right at 6:10, ready to roll, ready to go. UCLA has got you guys good. Okay. All right. So cool. So I want to thank you guys for taking the time out of your evening. I know, especially because we're in fall quarter, and I know it's probably crazy for you guys. Are we week 3, week 4? I'm never on time in my week. Can somebody throw up a number? Or 4? Boom. See, week 4. I lose track already. So that actually means you guys are probably taking midterms or getting ready to take some midterms. Okay, cool. So you guys will be able to speak a little bit about that. So let's go ahead. I did this in no particular order. I just wrote people's names down. And so if you want, what I would like for you guys to do is start off by just introducing yourself. Tell them where you're from, right? So what city or what state, and then what high school you attended. And then if you could talk about like what your current status is, first year, second year, third year, if you guys graduated, that'd be great. Your reasons for wanting to become a nurse, right? Especially for those that are applying to nursing. If you are applying for freshman admission, you knew at 18, or if you're transferring, you knew at a particular age, right? So kind of give us your reasons for that. And then what is it like being a nursing student? Okay, so definitely be honest with this. I think the people that are out there, right, as the attendee land, they're going to really want to know some great insight. And so, yeah, we'll start off with those, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. So how does that sound? Cool. So is Savannah here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, there you are.
Hi.
Awesome.
I'm Savannah Sanders. I am from El Centro, California, which is a very small rural community that's like in the middle of the desert, closer to Arizona, right on the Mexican-American border. I attended a public school. It's called Southwest High School. And I currently am graduated. I graduated in June of this year. So finished senior year during the pandemic, which was a thing, but we all got through it. And okay, reasons for wanting to be a nurse. Oh, my current status. I just actually got a job at UCLA as a nurse in the neuroscience and trauma ICU. Ooh. So I start November 1st. So I'm just kind of hanging at home until I move back on Sunday. So I'm very excited for that. I wanted to be a nurse, like, since I can remember. I grew up around a community that was like always in need, and our hospitals did not have very good healthcare, and a lot of my friends and their parents were illegal immigrants, and they were kind of scared to seek healthcare just for fear of like deportation, and it was very frustrating to watch. And so I like promised myself I would become somebody that could help people like that, and that's what inspired me to go into nursing. And what is it like being a UCLA School of Nursing student? There's good and bad to it, right? So I would say like the things that I really love about UCLA nursing is that it's very small. And so you know everybody that you're in nursing school with. And then once you're a junior, you get to know the transfer students as well, who are usually a lot older than you by a couple years, or even like by 10, 20 years. And I also really like UCLA School of Nursing because it's very diverse, and you get people from all over the United States and other countries that come and want to be in healthcare. And it's very inspiring. I also like that the classes, your nursing classes are small, but like your general education classes like chem and life science, like those are big lectures. But once you get into those nursing classes, they're very small, and your professors really do care, and you get to have a relationship with them. And yeah, it's definitely like others compared to other students and other majors. I would say like it is more demanding. You take 4 to 5 classes sometimes a quarter, and other students are only taking 3. So you do have to be dedicated. But you know, with good time management, there is time for like fun things, obviously, and clubs. So yeah, I mean, welcome any questions, but I'm sure other people have tons to say as well. So
awesome. That's great. Thank you. That's awesome. Cecilia?
Hi, my name is Cecilia. So I'm from Santa Ana, California. What high school did I attend? I went to Segerstrom High School, And currently I'm a fourth year. So I'm doing my clinical rotation right now, which is why I have my mask on and my scrubs. And let's see, reasons for wanting to be a nurse. So I think a lot of us, what we have in common is like, that root of helping people. And I think that's generally like the main reason for myself too, is just being able to help patients and also their family members go throughout this, unfortunate event, that the reason why they're in the hospital, and being able to put a smile on their face regardless of the situation. What's it like being a UCLA School of Nursing student? So I think like how Savannah said, there's good and bad. Hopefully most of the good outweighs the bad, but I think it's that environment that UCLA School of Nursing brings you with that small cohort that you have. I think generally connects you with every single student and as well as the faculty. So I think there's a lot of clubs that you can join, like that are there to help you out. ATD, which is like I'm plugging in, but it's like a nursing fraternity. And there's like critical care, a lot of specialties. So I think UCLA brings that to you. And also apart from that, other events. So I think UCLA is great. Nursing school to go to.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Jamie? No, Jamie? No, Jamie. Alex? I see Alex.
Hi guys, my name is Alex. I'm from San Diego, California. I went to Rancho Bernardo High School. I'm currently a third-year student. And my reason for wanting to be a nurse, so growing up, I was always surrounded by medical professionals in my family. And I always kind of grew up thinking like, okay, like I'm gonna be a doctor. Like I never really questioned it. But then I had this internship in high school where I was working in like the med surg floor and the ICU floor, and I was with nurses the whole time. And I realized like the doctor would come and leave, but the nurse was always there. And I just had so many like amazing experiences that I realized that a nurse's type of care is so much more intimate. It's 24/7 and it's like right there all the time. And that's just what I wanted more than anything. And I had a really good experience. And that's kind of when I decided like, I think nursing is for me. And also just like logistically, it's way shorter schooling. And I just really wanted to get into like the flow of working. I didn't want to be in school till I was 30. And so it made sense. And I'm really happy doing it. And so what's it like being at UCLA? There's so many resources in the School of Nursing or just the whole like school in general. There's so many amazing like club sports. There's like intramurals. There's like a lot of activities outside of school that really help balance with mental health and like socializing and meeting people. And the School of Nursing specifically have amazing faculty. And I think everyone knows how difficult nursing is. And so everyone gets really close. And like, I'm a third year, so we just started doing like fundamentals and like learning assessments. And it's so amazing to be tested on like performing a skill rather than just like memorizing like formulas or something. And so I'm really excited right now because I just started this, but it's great. And I'm sure everyone else has more to say about it.
Sweet. Awesome. Thank you for that. And I got to make sure I say this right. Is it Kaylee?
Hi, it's hard to say. It's Kaeli, but you
Kylie.
can say
Oh,
however you want.
no, you said it beautifully. So thank you. Thank you for that.
No problem. Introducing myself, I'm Kylie, as you heard. I am originally from San Juan, Puerto Rico, and I've moved a lot. I've lived in like over 10 places. So I've lived in New Jersey, Miami, and now Texas. So I went to high school in Texas, so I was out of state. So that's a whole new perspective for you. I've only visited California prior to attending UCLA. I had never lived here. But it was in terms of I graduated like Savannah did in June, and my current status is that I'm in the process of moving to New York because that is where I'm going to be working in the ER in the Bronx. So interesting. And then reasons for me wanting to be a nurse. When I was little and we first moved to the US, my mom gave me a first aid kit because we couldn't
access healthcare as quickly because she and my dad had to work. So I was, instead of using the first aid kit on myself and my sister, I was using it on my classmates during recess. So I was like, I want to work in healthcare and help people out. And I liked nursing specifically because of the flexibility of it. We get to pick any type of interest that we want. So I like the ER, so critical care. But if I ever changed my mind, I can just switch. I don't have to get recertified in anything. Like I can get trained in the unit, but I have that like flexibility to change. And so I wanted to travel. And with nursing, you can also do travel nursing and go to different countries and help like impoverished areas. So that's something that I'm interested in. So that's why I was like, oh, I like the flexibility of nursing. And then what's it like being a UCLA student? So like Savannah was saying, we have a lot of flexibility in the sense of we have like big classes for people who like to the big college experience, and we also have our intimate classes of nursing students, and it is just a lot of you noticing that you don't know anything. At least for me, the entire time, there was every time I felt like I knew something, something new would pop up. So it feels like a lot of you not knowing anything. But the great thing about it that I noticed is in the nursing classes, there's a lot of collaboration. I never felt like people were competing with me and trying to make me do worse so that they would do better. So that was like a very great thing about being like a nursing student specifically, is the fact that people are like a team and you're just there to help each other support. And even now after we've graduated, people still send reminders to each other being like, oh my gosh, this is a job that's open, or this is an opportunity. So it continues to be like a good network that you have. So that's that.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. And what you're noticing is you're building, or the bond that you have with your classmates are going to be lifelong, and I think that's the great thing about that. So awesome. Thank you for that. So next, let's go to Chathari. Sorry, I'm butchering
No,
names
it's
here.
okay.
So,
Hi, my name is Chathuri. I'm from Davis, California, so just a little bit up north, and I went to Davis High School. I'm a fourth year BS student, so I entered after high school, and I'm graduating this year, like hopefully. I want to be a nurse. There's no one in my family, I think, that's in healthcare. I don't think anyone's in healthcare. Yeah. So I didn't really realize that healthcare was an option for me. And I think I remember in sophomore year, I was taking anatomy, and someone who actually graduated from UCLA nursing last year in 2020. Yeah. She was talking about how she wanted to be a nurse. And as she was talking more about it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. Like I found my thing I want to do. And ever since that moment, I think it's really been like, yes, this is exactly what I do want to do. And being at UCLA, it's amazing. It's difficult, obviously, because it's nursing, it's difficult, but I still get the butterflies when I walk past Royce and I think about how I get to be here, and that's that feeling hasn't gone away even after 4 years, and I don't think it'll ever go away. But it's difficult, it's really difficult, but it's very rewarding, knowing that everything that I learned in my curriculum, I actually get to see it in clinical, and everything's relevant and everything plays its part one day in my career. And that's just very cool to know. So I love it out here. Yeah.
that's awesome. And I'm pretty sure that's Royce Hall in your Zoom background. You hopefully, if everything goes right, this pandemic has messed us all up. And I know the ones that just graduated. Actually, did you guys go back recently last month to walk? Did you guys do that? Were you guys able to go to Royce?
We got to walk in June.
Oh, okay. Okay,
Mhm.
in June. Oh, that's right. I'm sorry for those. I was thinking those that graduated in 2020. So, okay, you guys were able to walk. Okay, good. But I say that to say, hopefully, if all goes well, we'll be back to in person. We'll be back to having our graduation, and we have it every year at Royce Hall. So that's something to look forward to. And again, for those that haven't been on campus, definitely check out Royce. To me, it's so immaculate. It's probably our best building on our campus. So definitely that's something you want to check out. So thank you for that. Okay, and then last is Vanessa.
Hi everyone, my name is Vanessa. I am originally from Pomona, California, which is like 45 minutes away from LA, but I just say from LA for those who don't know. I went to Diamond Ranch High School, which is in Pomona. It was also a public school. Had a great time there, and I also recently just graduated like Savannah and Kylie. And UCLA was amazing. Now I actually find myself in the Bay Area after living in SoCal my entire life. I'm going to be starting to work at UCSF Benioff Children's Hospital. in the pediatric cardiac ICU on Monday, actually. So it's coming up. I'm super excited. I guess a big reason for wanting to be a nurse, specifically a peds nurse. I had a personal experience where my little cousin was born with Hirschsprung's disease and short-gut syndrome. And for me, my family also is not made of like anybody who's in the medical profession. So it was all very new to me. He had a home care nurse come take care of him there. And I was able to go with him to his visits to like CHLA, which is Children's Hospital of Los Angeles. And that's when I really saw nursing and what it was. And same thing as everybody else has said, like the nurses are the ones that are always there. They're interacting with families for the most part. And they always made me feel comfortable because even if they had bad news, like when they came to tell us, they said it in the most like caring way possible. And I knew that I wanted to be that person for other families. So that's why I wanted to do peds/nursing, and then specifically ICU. That one kind of just not came out of nowhere, but I kind of saw it coming. I'm a very like go person. I like to be very productive, and like I think I get adrenaline from intense scenarios, and I think that's when I work best. So that's also why I chose ICU nursing. What's it like to be a School of Nursing student? I had a great time. I tell people it was my peak, even though I hope it's not my peak because we're only up from here. But I had a really good time. I think UCLA School of Nursing, it's at the #1 public university in California. So I think that comes with a lot of privilege. And especially for us seniors who just graduated, when we had like pandemic and like the whole clinical scenarios or placements, that was really difficult. But I think if we had been in another school that wasn't UCLA, it would have been a lot harder to get into the clinicals. So I'm super grateful for that. And clinicals, those were my favorite thing about School of Nursing. I mean, that's what I'm looking forward to since year one. But like everyone said, there's also some cons. And I think for me, it could get very overwhelming when you're coming into this knowing nothing medical perspective, like just coming into it brand new. But like Kylie and other people said, there's lots of support within your cohort, lots of resources as well. And I think for me, a big part was mentorship. So like Ceci said earlier, like ATD, which is like the fraternity we have at UCLA School of Nursing, that's where I found most of my mentors, and they've been through it. So they guided me through, they shared the resources that they had and what helped them. And I think that's really what helped me succeed in School of Nursing. And that's why I recommend it to everybody, because there's support there. And I think my most favorite part though, is that it's a small school feel, but you have like all the big school activities, and I would recommend it to anybody.
Yay. Thank you for saying that, Vanessa, too, because in one of my earlier slides, I always like to say how like we're a small community in the School of Nursing within the big realm of the campus. So that's pretty cool that you kind of doubled down on what I was saying earlier. So thank you for that. And so, all right, so I would want to open this up. I do see a couple questions, so I want you guys to feel free to keep putting your questions in the Q&A, and then we'll go ahead and answer those. So the first one, and the panelists, I'm pretty sure you guys can see it as well, but this one is for Kylie, and someone is asking, as an out-of-state student, what was it like adjusting to life in California? And did you feel left out or isolated at all, surrounded by so many in-state students?
So for me personally, I'm someone who enjoys like talking, and I'm very extroverted. So in that sense, it was a little easier than I think it would be for someone who's more introverted, but there's definitely opportunities. A part of like what helped for me personally was being in the dorms. So the first year being in the dorms, everybody has like their doors open, like you get to communicate with people who live in your hallway. Also people in classes, just, I think a lot of people go with the mentality that, oh, everybody knows each other, everyone's from California, but everybody doesn't know each other. It's such a big school that all your classmates are in the same place that you are, that they also want to make friends, but they're kind of being shy about it. So if you just strike up a conversation with like people in your classes, they're more than happy to talk to you. Like I still talk to people who I had only in one class, like that I see randomly. In my big classes, like chemistry and biology and all of those, I would recognize students who I never even spoke to, because even though it's a big college, there's a lot of opportunity to interact and make community. So definitely people, if you live in the dorms, you're going to make friends like that. we had a Facebook page where we could look for roommates. And so a lot of people would say like their majors and stuff like that. So I had a nursing major roommate, and that might be something you guys find beneficial. If you guys have a Facebook page for the people of your class, you guys can live together. And then that's someone that you can share classes with and a living situation with, depending how much space you like from your classmates. But it definitely wasn't hard to make friends, in my opinion. Everybody was very nice. And there are I noticed a lot of California students and a lot of international students. I didn't meet a whole lot of out-of-state students. So even the international ones kind of have something similar to you because they're also new to the area, but you have the advantage of like being from the States. So you have that commonality in culture. So it wasn't difficult. It was good. And everyone was really nice.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And so we have someone else asking, and feel free anyone to jump in if you want to answer any of these questions. But someone is asking, how many of you worked in a hospital or a nursing home prior to starting college? And then if you guys know any nursing students from Minnesota. I don't know of any, but you guys might know if there's any students from Minnesota. But let's answer that first part. If any of you guys worked and or volunteered prior to starting. Anyone to jump in?
I can speak to that. I volunteered at like a rehab center, like physical rehab, and then a hospital when I was, I think maybe my junior and senior year of high school. And I think that helped me build like my resume / story coming into UCLA, but I didn't work in like a nursing home, or I wasn't a CNA or anything like that.
I want to speak to that because I did not. There was like not really any opportunities in my hometown to like immerse yourself in the healthcare industry. And so I really just had to like really open up and be vulnerable in my essays and be like, I promise this is what I want to do. So don't freak out if you don't have experience, but I did take like the only like healthcare class we had in my high school, but there was like really nothing that I could do. And so I didn't personally, so it wasn't a deal breaker because I ended up getting in. So, but I would say I recommend it, obviously, if you are able to.
No, but I appreciate that because a lot of people do think that you have to have some type of healthcare experience or like you're automatically not getting in. So it's really good to hear from your perspective that even if you didn't have healthcare experience, you had a passion or have a passion in nursing. And so that's how you're able to articulate it and talk about why you have that passion and what you plan on doing with it, right? And so now we're seeing 4 years or even 5 years later, right? Because you applied as a senior, but that you're graduating and you're starting to work as a nurse. So thank you for mentioning that. So someone is asking if there's any transfer students. I know Cece, I believe unless I'm getting that wrong, but she did have to step out. So we'll leave that for her because I believe she's a transfer. But let's see, let's go to the next one. Were any of you able to do any sororities or fraternities, because I know Alex is here, while being in the nursing program?
So I am in a fraternity, and I do know a lot of girls who are in sororities. It's one of those things where I think freshman and sophomore year, you definitely have way more time to participate, to join them, to meet people. And as school starts getting more busy, like junior, senior year, it's kind of up to you what your priorities are. But I think I had a really good experience with it. I made a really nice friend group outside of nursing. So I have a nursing friend group, like a fraternity friend group, and I have like my dorm friend group still. And so I think it's a great outlet if that's what you're interested in.
And then also like not even maybe sorority or fraternities, but would you guys be able to talk about any organizations or associations that you guys belong to? I know like Vanessa and Cece were talking about ADT, but were there others or even some that were not in nursing that you might have been involved in?
I was on the UCLA triathlon team for the first 2 years, which was pretty intense. I mean, we had practices twice a day and they wanted you to come to all. Obviously, I couldn't sometimes because of nursing school, but my junior year and senior year, once we started clinicals, and also there was like the pandemic, but it did become like too much to like be like a really like upstanding club member, just because that was like a very intense club. But the first 2 years, it was totally fine.
I actually was in an RA in the residence halls for 2 years. So my sophomore, my junior year. And although it's not a club, I think it did take up a lot of my time, but it's definitely possible. So I don't want the people to be discouraged that like nursing school is your only priority. Like you can definitely do other things. And you meet, I think for me, I loved having like an outside of nursing friend group because it can get overwhelming when you're all equally stressed and you don't have anybody else to go to. So I definitely recommend like some sort of outlet like that. And for me, I found a lot of those friends through UCLA Res Life.
There's
Thank you.
also a lot of, oh, I was
No,
gonna
no,
say
go.
that there's also a lot of opportunities to get involved in nursing clubs, and also they have a whole like club fair where they can like see all the different types of extracurriculars. Some of them are as random as like I think eating lettuce. So there's all kinds of things. I was in global action in nursing, so it was like it helped people go to Doctors Without Borders and stuff like that type of thing if you're interested in that. I was in the Women's Health Club. And there's also a Latino student union club type of thing within nursing, and they have that for all different minority groups as well as for LGBT students. So there's a lot of different clubs within nursing that are also a reflection of what's on the major campus. So the nursing ones, in my opinion, accommodate your schedule a little bit more because everybody else is also very busy compared to what your obligations would be on a organization that's a bigger part of campus.
Awesome, thank you. And so we'll kind of keep on there because you were on that subject because you were talking about like minority groups. And this could be for anyone, but this person, I guess, is asking more for fraternity or sororities. But they're saying, do you know if any non-binary students are allowed in those? I don't know, maybe if Alex could speak on that. And if maybe you're just speaking about just non-binary students being involved in anything that's on campus, right? And just how inclusive the university is.
Yeah, as far as Greek life goes, they are very inclusive. There's a whole rush process, and you can decide also which like sorority or fraternity that you kind of connect with more, and like which type of people you like. And there's tons of other like non-traditional fraternities. Like there's professional fraternities. There's like Latino, Latinx fraternities, and like different like cultural fraternities. And so there's a lot of options. A lot of them are very inclusive, and there's so many clubs. Like Kylia was saying, there's LGBTQ like clubs, there's like clubs for like anything really. And so you will find your niche, you will find people that you connect with, and UCLA as a whole is very, very inclusive.
Awesome, thank you for that. So here's a question. For those who dormed, did you have any nursing students as roommates, or did they all come from different majors?
My roommates for like my entire time here have all been non-nursing majors, and I think I actually really like that because it kind of helps separate like my nursing life from just like my general life at UCLA. Excuse me. I think I spend literally every waking moment thinking about nursing now, that it's really nice to like come back to my apartment and just hang out with some really friendly pre-med students who understand the struggle, but also who I don't have to, I can kind of give myself a break a little bit. And also in my first 2 years, it really helped me to branch out a little bit more. I was able to meet new people just on my floor, and it's nice to have those separate circles. And I'm not like bashing anyone who lives in nursing students, because oh my gosh, imagine someone who understands your schedule when you have to wake up at 4:45 in the morning. Like they get it because they did that yesterday to you. So there's pros and cons, but I really, really enjoyed my experience dorming. And I think I appreciated not having nursing majors as my roommates.
Awesome. So, oh, okay. So who, I don't know. So someone's asking why did you end up in Peds ICU? I don't remember if that was Savannah or Vanessa. No, okay, Vanessa, yeah. Can you speak a little bit on that?
Yes. So I think going into UCLA, I knew peds was what I wanted to focus on. So I really focused my entire time at UCLA School of Nursing to really just beef up my resume and make it known that like kids are where I want to be at. And so for me, that started in joining the Pediatric Interest Club at UCLA. And that's like through the School of Nursing. And I was able to hold both board positions like all the years. And I made it up to president my senior year. And I think that really showed that I was super interested and involved in peds. And then also I was like a babysitter part-time here and there. So really just surrounding myself in opportunities where I could be with kids or learn to take care of kids. And then I think lastly, for like in my when we did have our pediatrics course, I made sure that people knew like I want to do peds, and I advocated for myself in clinical. And I told my professor like I'm really intrigued by the pediatric ICU. Can I like have my rotation there for one of the days that we're here? And just really make it known that that's what you want to do or what you think you want to do. And I think that really helps when you're getting towards immersion. For those of you who might not know, immersion is basically when you shadow a nurse, and whenever she works, you work. You work a certain amount of hours, and they ask you like a little survey, like basically why you deserve this spot or why you want to be where you want to be. And for me, because I had beefed up my resume and just my own experience with kids, I was able to use that. And I think that really helped me get my immersion placement, even though they were very like rare and scarce. And also just applying to jobs. It really helps when you know what population you want when you're like interviewing and applying to jobs.
Thank you for that. Okay, so let's see. We have a couple more because I also want to be cognizant of you guys' time. But someone is asking, did any of you have a sort of a fear when joining? Like, was there something that you may adhere to in terms of your ability of being a nurse? Were you afraid of needles or anything else like that? Anything you had to overcome?
I will say that I'm like a very sensitive person. I've just come to terms with that at this point. And there's like this phrase in nursing, nurses if they're young, it's like this like phenomenon almost where older nurses kind of have like hazing or like bullying rituals for new nurses. Well, they'll kind of like mistreat them and won't really be nice to them, kind of like, I don't know, it's like a process like new nurses sometimes go through. And that was something that terrified me because I am so sensitive and anything makes me cry. And I'm like, I'm not going to cry in my workplace. That's so embarrassing. So I used to work as a CNA in a nursing home, and the nurses there, they would like eat me. I was there young and they would eat me, and I would like, I don't know, but I kind of came to terms with that a little bit. I think that was something that really scared me about nursing, but something that helped was when I started my clinical rotations, the nurses that work with us, they're all so nice. And even when they're not nice, they're at least civil, and that's all I need from them. And I think just like encountering nurses that maybe didn't agree with me every day, and every day I got a little bit more confident in myself and I thickened my skin. And it was like a rough process, but like you'll get through it. I got through it and I'm like the softest person I know. Yeah, so that's not like I don't know if that's like a needle kind of fear, but that was something that terrified me, and it worked out. It'll be okay.
Awesome. Okay, so we have one more, at least for now. And let's see. So how did you decide your specialty in nursing, or what made you decide that particular department specialty was the one? And so I'm assuming this question might be for Savannah, Vanessa, and Kaeli, since you guys have graduated. Could you guys maybe speak about, again, I think Vanessa did already, but could you guys speak about, why you chose that certain specialty in that department?
For sure. I love to talk about my unit. So actually UCLA School of Nursing is super helpful in this process because you get rotations literally in every single unit. We had geriatrics, we had pediatrics, we had like all type of med surg floors. We had maternity. We got to be in the ICU. We got to be in psych. Like they literally let you be on every unit that you can possibly get your hands on. So after 2 years, you've pretty much seen most of what, or gotten a feel for everything. And then in immersion, when you go in, like, there's like a list of units you can choose from. I knew I wanted to be in ICU just because I, like Vanessa, like I really feel like I work well when there's a lot of pressure and there's a lot of adrenaline and you need to like act quickly and like be on your feet. So I chose the neuroscience and trauma ICU, and I was placed there for immersion. And just over the 10 weeks, like you see, how you are in that environment. And I totally fell in love. There, I remember like my first day there was like a guy, a patient came in and he had 5 gunshot wounds. And I was like, I was like, this is my thing, totally. Like, and like we had to like, transfuse blood, and like it was this really big thing, and it was a lot. Like as a nursing student because like you can help, but it's like you don't want to like mess up or like get in the way. And I was just like, okay, this is like such a big learning curve, and I love it. And so I definitely have to thank UCLA for like leading me there and giving me the opportunity to like just like go through their hospital and see all the units. And yeah, that's how I knew I wanted to be in the trauma ICU.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so we'll take these last two questions because again, I don't want to keep you guys here forever, but I think these are really two good questions. So definitely want to leave off on these two. But we'll start with the second one that I see here because I think the last one is a good one to end on. Okay, so someone is asking, what were the class schedules like? Did you have classes at night, super early in the morning? And if so, did you like them?
So I'm only a third year, but freshman, sophomore year, there's a lot of flexibility with your schedule. There's a ton of different chem classes, bio classes, and you can kind of choose what you like best. So I know my fall of freshman year, I had all my classes start at 10 o'clock, and I was like, oh, this is amazing. I get to sleep in. But now as a junior, most of my classes are 8 a.m. So enjoy it while you can. I know as clinicals start, they're usually very early in the morning. I don't know, I've never had really late classes, and the latest class I have ends at 6. But yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of flexibility first 2 years for sure.
Okay, so let's go ahead and end it on this last one. Someone is asking, are any of you guys first generation students? And if so, how did you adapt to the environment? And were there other ways that you seeked assistance?
I can help answer that question. So yeah, I'm a first gen student. So I think I was really intimidated by going to like a public university like UCLA. Cause like there's this thing like imposter syndrome. So like, and it's real. Cause once you get on there, you're like, oh my God, I'm not good enough. Like I won't do well. But I think that's where you have the support system from UCLA, like School of Nursing, your friends and anybody from faculty. But I also reached out to this program called AAP, which is like the academic advanced program. And I loved it. I met so many people, like there's tutoring. So they helped me get through like so many classes where I was like really doubting myself. So I think that's one of the most helpful program I joined. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And I thought that was a really good way to close it. Just because a lot of people think, if I'm first generation or I'm the first in my family to even get in, think about med school or medical schools, I should say, like nursing, med school, dentistry, whatever the case is, am I going to be able to do it? Right. And so I think the good thing is being able to see just how diverse our student panel is here and seeing the different backgrounds and where people are coming from. You're seeing, right, that it's doable. You'll see people that are graduated, have jobs, and you see people that are getting ready to graduate. So I definitely just want to say thank you. When I sent out the notice to say, hey, would you guys want to join me? These people were the first to jump on and say thank you. So I know from the bottom of my heart, and then the rest of my A team, which is Jamie and Natalie, as well as those that attended, I really do want to just say thank you. We know your time is precious, but again, thank you. Congrats to the 3 of you that are graduated, the ones that are getting ready to graduate this year, and then Alex, who's a couple years behind. But again, thank you all. Enjoy the rest of your evening. So I appreciate it.
Can I drop my email in the chat?
Please. Yeah, and if anybody else wants to drop their email in the chat, I would love that. That'd be awesome. Awesome. Thanks, guys. See you guys. All right. So we're going to go ahead and spend the next, let's say 10 minutes. If you guys have any additional questions, we could do that. If not, what we'll do is we'll just hang on for a few more minutes just to see what the questions are like, that if there's anything we can help answer, we would love to do that. But this really does conclude the information session. Again, we really hope you guys enjoyed it. We hope that this provided you guys with the information that you need to have a successful and complete application but also that it excited you guys, just so you guys can see what it's like to be a Bruin, to be a nursing student, and just knowing, what the future holds for you guys. So again, I just want to say thank you. And if there's any other questions, we'll hang on and answer those for you.